The final Sunday of our book, Creating a World That Works for All, by Sharif Abdullah. This is from page 193. Does your religion matter to you? Does your religious practice actually mean anything to you, to the world? Your faith should be a healing force in the world. This happens when spiritual understanding is allowed to shape your behavior rather than the other way around. When faith is deep and values are clear, your actions become both powerful and authentic. When faith is shallow and values conflicted, actions are of little effect and religion becomes, quote, the opium of the masses. If my everyday actions are not consistent with the central premises of my faith, my professing a religion is not only meaningless, but also misleading. To say, I'm a Christian, yet act in a way that would make Jesus puke, serves to discredit Christianity as a potentially effective force for change in the world. The same is true with every other spiritual teaching, including ours. And that's not in there. What we do speaks louder than we say. And now Abdullah is quoting from another author named Blythe. We walk, and our religion is shown, even to the dullest and most insensitive person, in how we walk. Or, to put it more accurately, living in this world means choosing. Choosing to walk, and the way we choose to walk is infallibly and perfectly expressed in the walk itself. Nothing can disguise it. The walk of an ordinary man and of an enlightened man are as different as that of a snake and a giraffe. And so Abdullah asks us, finally, so what is your religion? I'm going to read through our affirmation for this month one time, and then I'll invite you to declare it with me. I say yes to a world that works for all. Free of fear and anchored in faith, I walk boldly forward in love, accepting myself and others with an open heart. Please stand and join me. With conviction, I say yes to a world that works for all. Free of fear and anchored in faith, I walk boldly forward in love, accepting myself and others with an open heart. And so it is. God is. You know, sometimes we think we access the divine through our religion, don't we? But I want to give you a little piece of information. It's right where you are. You cannot get away from it. We try. We've forgotten. There are a lot of reasons that it feels inaccessible to us. But that's a human condition, not a spiritual truth. And as we align with spiritual truth, something new begins to unfold in our lives. Do you practice your religion? Or do you just talk it real good? What does religion mean, even? Here's what the dictionary says. Religion is a particular system of faith. We have a particular system of faith here, don't we? We tend to not use the word religion to describe it. We tend to call it spirituality, don't we? It's a particular system of faith. Spirituality and religion really kind of the same thing. We just call it two different things. If you look at only that definition, it's a particular system of faith. We have a system, don't we? We have a set of beliefs and a system that we practice. When you look at the root of religion, the Latin word, first off, let's talk about almost anytime you see re before a word like that, it means back or again. And legere, religion, re-legere. Legere means to bind or to tie. That is, our religion binds us or ties us back to God. It is our bond to God. And it is our practice, a particular practice that we engage in that binds us to something greater than we are. Oh, by the way, that thing that we can't get away from, that thing that is already so intimately bonded to us, we just are a little clueless sometimes. God bless us. We're adorable, aren't we? So my question for you this morning is, are you walking the talk? Because if you know our principles, you can read a little book, it's about that thick, that's called The 5 Unity Principles. And if you read that book a couple times and kind of get the language down, you can talk about it till your teeth fall out. But talking about it is not where the rubber meets the road, is it? Living the principles is what is important. And so as we close this series called Creating a World That Works for All, I've been considering that a lot. How well am I walking my talk in creating a world that works for all? And as I considered what might be something from my life that would let me know if I'm walking my talk or not, I thought of my mother, who is a lovely human being and loves me so deeply. And I love her so deeply. But here's something about my mom. My mom likes to make people happy. That's a nice quality, isn't it? Unfortunately, sometimes my mother's idea of what's going to make me happy and my idea of what's going to make me happy are two different things. You know what I'm talking about? My mother has had an idea since I was probably even still in her belly about what was going to make me happy. And I came out an individual that maybe she wasn't expecting. With some ideas of my own about what might make me happy. My mother would highly prefer that if I really had to do this minister thing, I could at least have the good sense to be Lutheran. My mother would highly prefer that I had married a man instead of a woman. My mother would highly prefer so many things in my life because she believed that is what would make me happy from the core of her being. Now, I probably don't need to tell you that my mother and I have clashed at times. But if I think about creating a world that works for me and my mom, let's start small. We're talking about creating a world that works for all. Let's start small. What if I could create a world that works for me and my mom? And I realize we've done that. She and I have done that. And the motivating force that has made that possible is love. See, we have different visions for my life, don't we? We have different ideas about what should be. But we've loved each other enough to transcend our differences and just be in the presence of love. We love each other enough that, honest to Pete, it really has been quite a while since we've had a pretty big clash. And I got to tell you, they happened every time we got together for many years. But we've been able to anchor enough in love, because I know she still has those preferences, right? I know that. And I know that I'm still going to come over here and do the things that God is leading me to do, and the things that make me happy, and that anchor me in truth. But we love one another. We love each other, and that makes our world work. The key factor has been love. It hasn't been the arguments. It hasn't been the trying to make peace. It hasn't been anything else. It hasn't been ignoring each other. We ignored each other for 5 years. None of that created a world that worked for both of us. What has created that world is our ability to release all of that and simply love her how she is. And accept, I know those are your preferences. God bless you, you're so cute. I have some preferences about how she would do her life too. What? She's not doing them. But the more fully we've been able to anchor in love, we've found a way to make our relationship work. And so I begin to wonder, as we think about creating a world that works for all, perhaps love is the key. If it worked here in my little microcosm, what are the possibilities for the macrocosm? We said very early in this series, based on this book that I read from earlier, that there are 3 kind of characteristics in a world that works for all. And the first characteristic is enoughness. Everybody has enough. Resources may not be distributed evenly. That's not the point. Does everybody have enough? The second characteristic of a world that works for all is exchangeability. In a world that works for everybody, we'd all be willing to exchange places with anybody else without feeling put upon or stigmatized, or as though we would be experiencing lack. We may not prefer to exchange places, but we could without feeling as though we had lost too much. And the third quality of a world that works for all is common benefit. The system exists to benefit everyone. If I think about the power of love to create a system that benefits everyone, the power of love to create a world in which I would be willing to exchange places with anyone because I know I'd have enough love. I'd have enough to eat. I'd have a place to sleep. I'd have some water to drink. I'd have my essential needs met. And the thing is when we get all caught up in resources and money and this and that and the other thing, it seems impossible, doesn't it? It's too complicated, there's too many people, too many needs, can't figure it out. I get that. It seems undoable. It doesn't seem practical. That's how I felt about my relationship with my mother. Too complicated, can't figure it out, it's not doable. We're never going to make peace. She has to change before it can be peaceful, or I'm going to have to give up my dreams before it can be peaceful. Something has to be... It's a bunch of BS, you guys. We don't have to be worried about the facts of the situation. If we are anchored in love, the solution presents itself. We don't look at the issue from, oh my gosh, this is never going to work. We don't have enough. We can't, the resources, it's just impossible. It's too complicated. When we look at it from that, it is done unto us as we believe. And it is too complicated, and it is too hard, and there is not enough. But if we can stand in the power of love, I have enough love to ensure that everyone in the world is fed. Suddenly, the universe rushes in to fulfill that need. Because that's the way it works. There is enough food to feed everybody. There is enough water. There are enough resources. We've been anchored in the problem. The spiritual revolution is to anchor in love. And it is a revolution in consciousness. Because what did I have to do? I had to change my mind. I always knew I loved my mother. I always knew my mother loved me. I just had to change my mind about all the things I thought were in the way. And let go of all of my opinions and prejudices and old hurts and fears. And just be love. And all else is added unto me when I seek first that kingdom of love. For in our teaching we say, God is all there is, I am one with God, and God is the impetus of love. Shall we walk our talk this week?
Yes.
Hallelujah. I got people talking to me now. I like that. So this is our walk. This is the spiritual revolution. And let me tell you something. It's a quiet revolution. It's quiet. It's subtle. Because it happens in here. And it happens in here. And I don't know about you, but I have spent many an hour marching and waving signs and chanting and doing all of those things. And I'm not saying don't do that. Where we do that from, where we do anything from a place of anger, from a place of hate, from a place of making somebody else wrong, or from a place of knowing, I am the embodiment of the Christ consciousness of love. And so I stand here in complete faith that there is enough for everyone. And that love always heals. And that if I can just embody enough love, the planet will be renewed. And when I heal my relationship with my mother by the power of love, there's a little shift in the collective consciousness, isn't there? And then when you do that, there's another little shift. And then when I'm kind to somebody in the grocery store who just bumped into me, which just happened at Costco on Saturday afternoon yesterday, it was nuts. And I'm kind to them. And I hold them in love, even though I was a little irritated that they kept running into me. It's like, get your cart out of my space. Is kind of where my human self wanted to go, right? But, when I stop and I think, we have a common goal, don't we? We both want to get through the checkout line. We have a common goal. There's a lot of people, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion. Let's anchor in love. You see, this is what's key to understand, is we all have a common goal. We all want to live a good life. Every person on the planet wants to live a good life. That's all they want. How we try and get there sometimes looks a little nuts to us. How my mom gets to, the life that she wants to live sometimes looks a little nuts to me. But I see her goal. I see her call to be more of what God would have her be. It's not mine to judge the how. It's not even mine to figure out the how. It's mine to anchor and stand in love and in faith. And in this way, we begin to get a bigger vision. We begin to recognize a world that works for everyone, a relationship that works for me and my mom. That was a pretty big vision at one time. I think we're pretty much mostly there. This is our this is our walk. This is our walk. This is what binds us back to God. Because God is what? Love. So when we embody love, we become bound back to God. And we become spiritual revolutionaries. And it is a revolutionary act to love in this culture. I'm telling you. Look around. And I'm calling you this week to become a revolutionary, to catch the big vision, to visualize a world that works for everyone, and to recognize and to understand that love is the religion, the practice that brings us forth. You see, if we love one another, we welcome the stranger, don't we? In fact, that is what we've been commanded to do in the Hebrew Bible and in the New Testament. We've been commanded to welcome the stranger. And if we're buried in the problems and the logistics of how do we do that, it seems impossible. But if we anchor in love, we begin to look at possibility rather than problems. And it becomes possible to find a way to welcome people in need and who have been traumatized and who are in pain. But only if we are anchored in love. As we embody this spiritual revolution, we keep families together. As we resolve the issues and challenges of our day, we care for our elders. We care for those with mental health issues. We care for children. We care for the marginalized because that's what love does. You see, we're all about duplicating the nature of God in the human realm, aren't we? And the nature of God is? That is like the core of pretty much any major world religion. God is love. And as Sharif Abdullah so eloquently stated, when we're behaving in ways that would make Jesus puke, we're probably not embodying love. All things are possible to the one who loves. Now, I don't know how to make all these things happen. I don't know how to create a world that works for all. Do you? I don't know the how. The how is not my business. What is my business is the what? The spiritual revolution of love. If I can become a greater embodiment of love a little more each day, the how will take care of itself. Because we find ourselves led into bigger ideas. See, when we embody the nature of God, our consciousness is lifted into its infinite intelligence, and suddenly all of the resources of God become available to us, and we become expanded, and we begin to, it just begins to outpicture in the world. The creative intelligence knows how to do it all. The creative intelligence created a solar system, a galaxy, a universe. Do you think it can solve our immigration problems? Yes, I do. Do you think it knows how to make sure everybody on the planet has enough to eat and drink and shelter? It absolutely does. We have to stop trying to solve these problems from the human perspective and embody the consciousness of God and allow that to resolve our challenges. And I'm talking about creating a world that works for all, but I'm talking about creating a life that works for you. I'm talking about creating a spiritual center that works for all of us. We lift ourselves in love, and all else is added unto us. There really is very little to do. There is really only something to be. And that binds us back to God. And all things are possible in God. The spiritual revolution is a simple thing, isn't it? It's a subtle thing. It's a quiet thing. It is to love. And so let's turn within and see if we can't embody a little more love. See if we can't begin to imagine into the vision. See if we can't begin to catch a vision of a world that works for everyone. And as you breathe, I invite you to relax your shoulders and feel your body fully supported by the chair as you breathe into your heart. And as you breathe into your heart, you breathe into the very heart of God. The impetus of the universe is God. The impetus of the universe itself is love. And that love has placed you here on planet Earth at this particular time to practice a particular way of being in the world. A way of love. And with each and every breath, you feel that awareness of infinite love growing in your heart, spilling over into your physical being. Every cell in your body comes alive with the power of love. You feel yourself vibrating with the awareness, every pore in your body opening to the presence of love, spilling up and over and out of you. Coming from the infinite source is love, inexhaustible. Who you are and where you are is love. And I invite you now to begin to recognize this as your personal revolution in consciousness, your personal spiritual revolution. You become the embodiment of love. Your mind and your heart open. As you lean into the vision of a world that works for all, a world in which everyone is safe, a world in which everyone has enough to eat, a world where education and health care and all of the good things of life are simply there for everyone. A world in which we simply know the spiritual truth that love is the divine impetus. And we simply walk in love. Begin to envision that world and allow the peace of that experience to settle over you like a mantle from heaven. And you recognize that in this world, love prevails. And in your life, your relationships, your work, your home, love prevails. And so whatever this vision may look like to you right now, I invite you to affirm with me that it is easy for you to remember and to live in to this vision. I invite you to affirm that you will write this down this afternoon or this evening while it is fresh in your consciousness. You will write it down and your commitment to living into this vision. And I invite you to share your vision with someone who has earned the right to hear your vision, so that you may speak the words of truth, such that they may unfold more fully in and as your life. And I invite you to practice love, to bind yourself to God as love, as your everyday commitment and your everyday practice. And so it is in the essence of these words that we experience the revolution in consciousness that changes the world. We remember who we are. We remember whose we are. And we simply allow that life to shine forth as we sing together. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. 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 And so I close this message with a grateful, grateful heart, knowing that we have remembered, we have been transformed, and we go forth in joy, living in love. And so it is. Amen.